proponents of Bitcoin will say things like Bitcoin fixes everything. So why do we need Ethereum versus like Bitcoin plus Lightning Network for scalability, and then using Bitcoin with its proof of work for security? So in this kind of, it is perhaps sort of a strange question, but it's a high level question. Why do we need another technology? Yes, it has a bunch of nice features, but like, doesn't Bitcoin fix everything already?
So the thing that always attracted me about Bitcoin is, these values of, decentralization, creating these open permissionless systems that anyone can participate in and that aren't just going to flop over and die if whoever created them gets bored, and that are resistant to whoever runs them breaking the rules and all of these things, right? And I think that pretty strongly that these principles are really valid and important to much more things than just money, right? Like Bitcoin is the blockchain for money, and Ethereum is built from the start as a general purpose blockchain, right? It's, there is Ether, the asset on Ethereum, but then you can also make, decentralized financial things, what we call DeFi today. You can make like ENS, the decentralized domain name system. You can make prediction markets on it. You can make totally non-financial systems that just keep track of whether or not some certificate was signed or whether or not some cryptographic key got revoked. There's this big long list of just interesting things that you could use about blockchains to do, right? Basically they are sort of the missing piece that where without them, the kinds of things that a decentralized computer network can do is very limited. And once you have them, a lot of those limitations end up going away. And so Ethereum was always from the beginning about that, right? It's about hey, this isn't just money. There's so much more that you could do if you could just go ahead and make any infrastructure or digital institution or DAO or whatever you want to call it, where the base layer of the logic is just executed in this open and transparent way where everyone can see what's going on. Or, if you like your zero knowledge proofs, at least everyone can see proofs that prove to you that what's going on follows the rules. And, you don't need to just constantly keep trusting centralized actors. And
hence the smart contracts
exactly
as being a sort of a core technology as part of Ethereum.
Yes, exactly. Smart contracts, the computer programs that are running on Ethereum, they are the core of what makes Ethereum general purpose.
Yeah.
So I do think that, there's a lot more wrong with the world than just money, right? I'm not one of these people who thinks that, if you get rid of fiat currency and you replace it with cryptocurrency, then suddenly wars are going to go away, right? Because, first of all, seigniorage revenue is only a small portion of government revenue, right? It's 5-10%, something like that. Second of all, if you are the sort of this is one of the things I don't even get about their philosophy. Let's say you're the sort of person who is an extreme and very distrusting libertarian, and you think that these governments are terrible, right? We know today that governments fund a combination of things like welfare and things like the military that goes and magic people in Afghanistan, right? And so the question you have to ask is okay, you with your new, magic newfangled cyber currency that takes over the world, take away the government's ability to have seigniorage revenue, and so you reduce the government's revenue by 10%. If the government is that evil, which portion of its expenses is it going to take that 10% from? Is it going to stop the bombing people in Afghanistan, or is it going to cut welfare? If you think it's the first, you have a very optimistic view of the government, right?
Yeah. So
that's, I guess, my perspective on why the whole we're going to save the world and create peace by denying governments the right to stealth taxation kind of perspective doesn't really make much sense for me. And I do think that there is real value that comes from a decentralized and open currency, just the fact that there is a financial infrastructure that anyone in the world can go ahead and use, right? It's that's something that can easily be a big boon for people, right? There's a lot of places where the currency is much less stable than the dollar, and these people, like, they don't, like, well, if they use Bitcoin, their only option is to get Bitcoins, right? Which, are also pretty volatile. If they use Ethereum, then, they can get Ether, but then they can also get stable coins, right? And you might think that, oh, you're not being ideologically pure. Now you're giving them stable coins, which are mirroring dollars, and obviously dollars are going to collapse too. But the reality is that dollars are vastly more stable than the Venezuelan bolivar. So, like, there are really meaningful and beneficial things that you can give to people by having a global and open financial system. But I think if you want to actually do that, like, you have to have much more than just a currency, right? And then if you want to go beyond financial things, then, you have to obviously have much more than a currency. And then, you also have to actually take scalability seriously, because non-financial applications, like, nobody's going to pay $5 a transaction for them.
Let's talk about Dogecoin and Elon Musk. Elon said that, quote, ideally, Doge speeds up block time 10x, increases block size 10x, and drops fee 100x. Then it wins hands down, end quote. You said in a blog post, partially responding to that there are subtle technical reasons why this is not possible. To this, Elon said that you, quote, fear the Doge. So let's talk about this. What are the technical hurdles for Dogecoin that prevent it from becoming one of the primary cryptocurrencies of the world? And do you, in fact, fear the Doge?
I definitely feel obligated to correct the record. I definitely do not fear the Doge.
Okay.
I love the Doge. I actually visited the Doge in Japan a few years back. It's she's an amazing dog. She's still alive.
Wait, the original Doge?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, we accept Doge every year for our annual DEF CON conferences. So I definitely, don't think Ethereum is opposed to Dogecoins. I kind of want to feel like, Ethereum is at least a little bit in spirit itself a Dogecoin. And then, as I mentioned, I love Doge. I bought a bunch of Doge. I still hold a bunch of Doge. On the scalability question, like, the challenge basically is like the limits to scalability and the trade-offs with centralization, right? Like, if you just increase the parameters without doing anything else, then it just becomes more and more difficult for people to validate the chain, and it just becomes more likely that the chain becomes centralized and becomes vulnerable to all kinds of capture.
Mm-hmm. So does it need like some of the layer 2 technologies that we've been talking about?
I personally think that, if Doge wants to somehow bridge to Ethereum and then people can trade Doge thousands of times a second inside of Loopring, then, that would be amazing. If they want to just like take ZK rollup style technology and just have thousands of transactions a second on their own chain, then that's, that would be a great outcome as well. I think if we could have a secure Doge to Ethereum bridge, then, that would be amazing. And then when Ethereum gets its scalability, any scalability thing that works for Ethereum assets, you would be able to also like trade wrapped Doge with extremely low transaction fees and very high speed as well.
Is there precedence for building secure bridges between cryptocurrencies? How difficult is this kind of task?
It's definitely something that's in its infancy. There definitely have been some cross-chain interaction things that have been done before. The earliest is probably the concept of merge mining, right? When a chain just makes its entire proof of work algorithm dependent on the proof of work algorithm of another chain. Right, so I think famous Dogecoin actually merge mines to Litecoin, which is, I think in retrospect, not looking like a very good choice because now Dogecoin is bigger than Litecoin. If there's potentially some way for Dogecoin to merge mine with an Ethereum proof of stake of some kinds, then like that could be an interesting alternative. So that's one type of like chain interaction. As far as like bridges, like one chain reading another chain, early in Ethereum's history, there was this project called BTC Relay. It's a smart contract on Ethereum that just verifies Bitcoin blocks. I think people stopped really caring about and maintaining it because there just weren't enough applications that were actually interested in using it at the time, and then the transaction fees got too high to actually maintain it. So I think if we want to make a BTC Relay 2.0 and that becomes cheaper because it uses snarks or something like that, then you probably could. But maybe now's the time when you actually like can do that sort of one-way verification. But the one challenge, though, is that if he wants to have a bridge that allows you to move assets between chains, then you don't just need one-way verification, you need two-way verification, right? And Ethereum can verify anything because Ethereum smart contracts can just run arbitrary code. But if you want Bitcoin to be able to do things based on what happens in Ethereum lands, then like Bitcoin would have to basically, well, they can do everything with soft forks because that's their religion, but they'll do it that way.